Hi everyone, thanks for dropping by and for returning to the old world. Today, in a slightly impromptu video, we have news. The old world is still coming. Work is still being done on it with more information to follow. And there's now been some stuff put up on Warhammer community. So what have we got? Well, mostly we've got art. Looking at 3 of the factions, plus a map and a little bit of blurb. What does the art show us? Well, there's a couple of images of Bretonnians, an archer, and a knight. So we know from previous stuff that the Bretonnians were probably going to get a little bit of love. This suggests that's definitely still the case. And the art seems to show that Games Workshop are sticking to the narrative of huge class divides between the noble knights and the dirt poor peasants, effectively moving around and dressed in rags, as opposed to the well-dressed, well-armoured knights of Britannia. Looking at those images, they do remind me very heavily of the models that existed for, 7th, 8th, I think it was 6th, they did a bit of a model shift change. They look very similar to the most recent iteration of Bretonnian models, shall we say. Which says to me that we're not going to see that change in aesthetic. I've spoken in previous videos about how I think the aesthetic should change, and I would welcome that to really reflect a change in times. And if the Bretonnians don't change, then I don't think the other human factions can alter materially either, because otherwise they're really going to be standing on each other's toes. So I don't think we're seeing a big leap in what the game will look like visually. Certainly from what the different soldiers and armies are wearing. What else do we see? Well, we see a Tomb King chariot. Now, Tomb Kings were, to my understanding, a much loved faction back in the day, but they did get very little love shown back to them through Age of Sigmar. It's much similar to the Bretts, actually, that also, let's face it, didn't really get any love from 8th Ed Warhammer either, and were left to largely rot. So it's great to see them back, and it's interesting that 2 of the more minor factions in the world of Warhammer are getting this updated imagery as part of the latest update, when we haven't really seen anything to do with the more major factions that we were more used to seeing on the tabletop. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a revitalization, maybe not. It's very early to say. And let's face it, going off a few pictures that Games Workshop put out is a recipe for disaster. But we do like to speculate on these things. And the final picture is an Orc Boar Boy doing an orky thing and just charging at people. I say people, he's just charging. You don't see what the orc is charging at. But again, there's not a huge difference in look to the classic orc look. Not that I really would have expected that, because it's a fairly timeless aesthetic anyway, and could have fitted in really whatever they did with other factions. There is a map. I've not looked at that in detail. I know other channels have looked at maps previously and identified where shields and indicators of where individual lords and various nobles might start on the map, or their areas of interest and control. And I'll let other people dive into that as per their whim. The final thing to pick up is there is a reference to 2023 being the 40th anniversary of Warhammer, and that we'll get more information throughout that year. So beyond telling us that the game is still being developed and is still coming, this suggests that 2023, at least it does to me, will see the start of the hype train. Now, there's really strong rumours floating around about 10th ed 40k, and that will be coming next year, possibly mid to late year. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that sits side by side with a return of the old world, with Warhammer coming back to the shelves. If information is going to be coming out across next year, does that mean we're building up towards maybe a 2024 release, particularly if 40k is going to be in the second half of the year? Because having two significant releases close together doesn't seem like a great idea. Alternatively, it might mean that what we're actually going to see is 10th edition coming out towards more of the middle of the year, and maybe celebrating the Christmas of the 40th anniversary with a drop into the shops just in time to hit the stockings and really pick up a bit of interest and sales with something quite new. Very difficult to speculate at this point. We do have very little information, and I can't emphasize that enough, but at least we've got something. It's been so long since anything official came out, and it's great to see this movement in the right direction. I will definitely be keeping my eyes peeled for anything further, and I'm looking forward to seeing the direction of travel, particularly whether or not that confirms whether I actually want to invest in the game or not as a rule set. But I will be interested to see where it goes. That's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Return to the Old World. Have a great day and enjoy your usual Friday videos as well. Cheers.